Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you love these videos. I think it can help many of us in our journey. This week I missed a beautiful 35 minutes trip on a bus with my son because I didn't ask a question. I thought that I couldn't join him. And then I did it again with melatonin and I was wide awake at 2 a.m. in the morning. It reminded me twice in a week the power and the price that we pay when we leave certain things unchecked and we make assumptions. It reminded me of the simplest and yet the hardest agreement that we all break most of the time. Let me tell you the stories quickly. My son started a new school. The school is located about 35 minutes bus ride from where we live. And there was a parent-teachers meeting invited to at 10 a.m. in the morning. I was thinking the night before, what if I jump on the bus with him? That would be so lovely. I could spend time with him. I can see his classmates and I will be there in no time. Now it takes about 35 minutes to get to his school by bus and about an hour and 50 minutes to get by the underground. And I was thinking it would be so nice if I can actually jump on the bus with him. And I dismissed it as an option in my head because I know how tough regulations for schools are. So probably it's not possible. And if I take the bus, I will be in the school probably about 50 minutes earlier than the meeting. So they won't let us stay there and there is no really a place to go around. So I dismissed it. Next morning, I walk him to the bus. I wave goodbye and I leave. I walk, I go to the underground, I take the train. Half an hour later, Mika, who now has a flip phone, calls me and he says, "Mama, you should have come on the bus with us. There were other parents." I was so frustrated, you have no idea. I had another 40 minutes to get there. I missed the opportunity to spend beautiful time with my son and see and experience his bus ride he takes every day. And that was because I did not check. I just made an assumption. The same thing happened a few days later. I went on a trip to the States recently. I've been having difficulty sleeping. Usually I don't take any remedies for that. However, from the airport I got sleep gummies, which were based on melatonin and some other natural substances. Normally I've never actually tried melatonin, and I took it twice, 2 nights in a row. The first night I hardly slept. Second night, which was last night, I woke up at 2 a.m. in the morning and I was puzzled. After all, melatonin is supposed to help people, right? Then I checked and it turned out that for some people, it can have the opposite effect. It can make them more alert. And again, I made an assumption, this time without even being aware of the fact that I'm making an assumption and I didn't check. What is an assumption really? Assumption is when we believe something is true without verifying it. Fill the blanks based on our past experiences, based on our expectations and the worldview that we hold. And it totally makes sense why we do that. Our brains are wired for efficiency and we're looking for ways to preserve energy. Assumptions help us cut corners in a certain way. However, when they're left unchecked, we create a whole new world in our head and we project our stories and we build a world that it's not real. Sometimes we don't ask because we don't want to hear no. Sometimes we don't ask because we think we know. Sometimes we don't ask because we are avoiding discomfort, and often we don't even realize that we are making assumptions. That's why assumptions are so sneaky, and if left unchecked, we are creating too much drama and difficulties with the people we love in our life. Years ago, The Four Agreement by Don Miguel Ruiz was one of the most powerful books in my life. He has an agreement, the third agreement, which is don't make assumptions. He reminds us that assumptions lead to drama, to disappointment, to expectations, to hectic life, because we often create stories in our mind that are based on our own worldview, and we think we know what other people feel, what they think, and we assume how life will unfold for us. We need to find the courage to ask questions, to speak clearly, to express our wants and needs. Where the truth lives, assumptions die. I really truly love that. Where the truth lives, assumptions die. Now I'm going to give you a framework that can be really helpful when you deal with assumptions. And trust me, it's going to make your life so much more positive. The first one is when in doubt, ask. Curiosity opens the door, assumptions close the door. I could have simply asked the driver, and I didn't. He could have said no, but I would have known at least. This is very true, specifically true in relationships, because often we tend to think that we know what the other person wants to communicate. We think that he knows or she knows how we feel. And we don't. It's only projection. Every other person lives their own life in their own head. And we may think that we know the answers, but we don't. Therefore, when in doubt, ask. The second one is when in a pattern, pause. And this one, I think it's really hard because, of course, if we know that we have a pattern that it's not helpful for us or for the relationships that we want to build, we will try to get out of it. But often the patterns are undetected. And trust me, we'll save ourselves so much drama if we are able to pause and to react, but break. It's called pattern interruption. Break a pattern that doesn't serve our lives. And the practice here is to be less reactive and more responsive. Just to pause, take a pause and think, am I acting out of my past or I'm going to act from a fresh place? The third one is say what you mean. Express, don't guess. And this one is specifically hard for me, I think, as a woman, but also as someone who grew up in a culture where in general you don't express your needs and wants and you expect other people to guess those for you. Don't project, don't protect, just express clearly, because the other party would always appreciate that, no matter how uncomfortable it may feel for us. The fourth one is ask yourself, is this true? This is one of the most powerful questions we can ask ourselves. Is this true? And it's good practice to ask ourselves that about almost everything that's happening in our life right now. But assumptions in general go unchecked. And when we asked about certain situation that triggered us or that made us feel in a certain way, is this true? It would truly help us to find a clear answer. Again, it may not be the answer we're looking for, and may not even be an answer that we will receive, depends often on the other party, but at least we will be clear for ourselves. I'm very grateful for the reminder this week, and even if it cost me sleep, energy, and longer commute, and missed opportunity to be with my son, it made me reflect on many other areas in my life right now where I'm making assumptions and where I'm not expressing myself clearly. And assumptions feel like shortcuts, but they often lead us farther. They lead us away from the truth. And I want to read you this quote from Don Miguel Ruiz. All the sadness and drama you have lived in your life was rooted in making assumptions and taking things personally. Take a moment to consider the truth in this statement. And now I would love to hear from you. What's one assumption you've made recently that turned out to be untrue? Let me know in the comment, and thank you so much for being here. If you find this video useful, share it with a friend, leave me a comment below, and I would love to see you next week. Bye! All that we otherwise... With the bus I had doubts. I could have asked. With the bus I